Welcome to this session of the Beyond the Veil Summit, where we'll explore the nature of the veil between the worlds. I'm Lisa Bonis, your host, and my guest for this session is Erika Robinson. Our topic today is It's Not Childbirth, Bearing Down and Letting Go. Erika Robinson is a diviner who uses Lenormand as her primary tool to guide and enlighten her sitters. A blogger who blends Lenormand with tarot and the Adinkra Oracle, Erika has written for Cartomancer magazine and uses the cards in her college advising to show students that their own role in forging their future is larger than they realize, and that they are guided and protected and cheered on always. Erika, thank you for being with us today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I want to start out with what I think is just an intriguing story. I wonder if you would tell us about your husband's passing and how that led you to your current work. This is something I want to hear about.
It's an amazing story. So, easier to tell, obviously, as the years go on. So it happened in October. It was unexpected. We had a beautiful day. He had planted mums, and I had made a pot of chili, and now it was evening, and we were sitting by candlelight, just quietly, and he was wearing socks that I had knitted for him. And he said to me, "Erika, when I die, bury me in these socks." And I burst out laughing. I said, "I can't." I said, "You love those socks so much that you wore a hole in them. And you know how embarrassing that would be?" And so we laughed. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what possessed me, but I got serious. And I said, and we were across the room from each other. And I said, "Dewey," that was his name, Dewey, "let's make each other a promise that whoever goes first will let the other one know if there's anything, after." He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. He just held out his pinky to me. And he had never done that before, but I went over to him and we pinky swore. And he looked at me in a very solemn way. And that was the end of it. Then we turned on a movie, and that was the end of the night. Well, a week later, he was dead. So it was a shock. And I missed his death by 10 minutes. When I went into the room to see him, he didn't look dead. So I said, "You left me." And he didn't pop up like a jack in the box. So I kissed him, and half his face was cold and half was warm. And I said, "Okay, he's gone." So now it's time. I did what I had to do at the hospital, and now I was leaving. And I thought, okay, I have to go home, and there's a lot of things to do, but I'm going to make a stop first. And I went to my local knitting store. And I bought the softest, prettiest cashmere charcoal gray yarn that I could find. And I stopped at home and I got my knitting things. And then I went to my mother-in-law's house where everyone was gathering. So, everyone is coming to the house to pay their condolences, and they come to me, and I'm knitting like a crazy person. And people would say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." "Well, what are you knitting?" And I said, "Socks." "Well, who are you knitting them for, dear?" And I said, "My husband." And you could tell, I could see out of my peripheral vision, people were thinking, "Does she even know that he's dead?" But I didn't pay it any attention. I have never knitted so fast in my life. And I had to make sure they were perfect. And I got those socks finished in time to take them to the funeral home so that they could be put on his feet. And I thought, you know what? I kept my promise. That was good. I thought that was it. About a couple of weeks later, I'm back teaching school, and but just devastated because I had a 15-year-old daughter. My husband was 58 when he died. He was young, and a friend of mine said, "You need to go to this yoga class." And I thought, well, yoga, or whatever. So I went, and it was uneventful. And I came back, and she said, "How was it?" I said, "It was uneventful. Nothing happened." She said, "You weren't open." I said, what does that even mean? You weren't open. She said, go back. So I went back and I noticed that at the end of the class during Savasana, the teacher was going around and whispering in people's ears, not everybody, but different people. So she whispered in my ear this time, which she had not before, and she's in the class before, and she said, I want to talk to you after class. I said, okay. So after class, everybody's gone, and she said, did your husband recently pass? So I'm like, how does she know that? I said, yes. She said, well, he was in the back of the room the whole time, holding up a glass of wine, toasting you with wine. And I thought, you know what? This is BS. So I said, what did he look like? So she describes him. And then I said, okay, this is, I said, what kind of wine was it, white or red? And she said, white. I said, yeah, now that wasn't him. He liked red. And I left. And I went right to the grocery store, did my grocery shopping. Next door to the grocery store was a liquor store. I come out to put my groceries in the car, and the liquor store owner says, excuse me, are you Mrs. Robinson? I said, yes, I live in a small town. He said, yes. He said, could you come in here, please? He said, you know, I'm so sorry for your loss. You know, we all loved your husband, and he ordered this case of wine for you, and it just came in. I had told my husband 2 weeks before he died that I was reading a book about a woman who was a yogi, and she had and a photographer, and she had taken a trip to Nepal. The bus had an accident. She broke her back, healed herself with yoga. To celebrate, was going to climb the summit of this mountain. And at a certain point in the mountain, her whole family was going to be there, and they were all going to celebrate. And they were going to have this big feast, and they were going to drink this wine, this certain wine. So I said to my husband, you know, I have a bad back. I kind of do yoga. I'm not going to climb any mountains. And I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not really a photographer, but I would love to taste that wine. So he had said, oh, I'll go get it for you. I said, really? He said, yeah. So he had gone to the liquor store, been gone a while, and come back with wine. I said, you found it? He said, no, they didn't have it. So I got you a consolation prize. So I realized that he was saying to me, it's not that he was toasting me for going to this yoga class. He was essentially saying, pick up the wine, pick up the wine, pick up the wine, because it was this white wine. So I thought, okay, that's really weird. Okay. Meanwhile, time passes, and little things are happening. Like, you know, when somebody dies, especially unexpectedly, there's all kinds of paperwork, right? The deeds to the house and insurance things and things that I didn't know where those things were. But I would just say, Dewey, I need to find this piece of paper. And I would close my eyes, and then, like a machine, a robot, I would just go to exactly where it was, even if it was buried under something, and pull out exactly what I need. So he was helping me the whole time. Meanwhile, I'm reading tarot or learning tarot, and I like it, but I was in a car with some friends, and one friend passed a deck of cards to another friend. It was Ciro Marchetti's Lenormand. And I don't know what possessed me. It never got to the back seat. I snatched it. I said, what is that? Oh, it's an oracle system. You know, I thought our friend in the back might like it. I said, I think I'm supposed to read this. So I ended up with the deck. And at that time, there were no resources in English except for one. It was Sylvie Steinbeck's The Secrets of the Lenormand. Very good book. Everything else was in German or French or, you know, and I could read the French, but I couldn't read the German. So I memorized Sylvie's book and I practiced. And I remember sitting on my bed, and I was doing the Grand Tableau, which is the big daddy of all spreads, had all the cards out, and I was very frustrated because I was good at this point, but not great. I felt like there was a hump I had to get over. So I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of teary a little bit, and I heard a voice. Now, I'm totally deaf in my right ear, which is why I only have an earbud in my left ear. Been this way since I was an infant and had a staph infection. But I heard a voice in my deaf ear saying, Erika, it's not childbirth, and it was my husband. And I thought, well, first of all, I'm hearing it in my deaf ear. That's really weird. Number one. Number two, that's Dewey. Number three, what does he know about childbirth? I mean, aside from, being there when I gave birth, what does he know? So I stopped and I thought about it, and I realized what he was saying, which was, I was studying Lenormand the way that I studied when I was at Harvard. I was bearing down and reading and memorizing and, just studying the way that one does. And I had mastered that part of it. But what was needed now was a letting go, a listening with my deaf ear. I wear 3 pieces of copper on my deaf side because when I read cards for people, I always look to the left. I mean, to the right, my right. I always look to the right because I feel like that's where I get the information from. That's where I am hearing information. And once I let go, I became this really good reader. So I would go on different forums, and because I read for all my friends and read for my family. And originally they would run away when they saw me with the cards. Then they started running to me and I had to kind of beat them off with a stick. And then I thought, yeah, but you know what? That's my friends, my coworkers, my family. I want to know, if I really am doing this well. So I just went to random forums and would offer to do free readings. Well, people, like piranhas, of course, everybody wants a free reading. And so I would get people from India, a lot from India, or a lot of Europeans, Eastern Europeans. And they would ask questions like, how does he feel about her? Now, I was tempted to bear down and say, well, who is he and who is her? And is this a parent-child relationship? Is this a love relationship? Is this a teacher-student relationship? What are their names? But then I said, Erika, this is not about that. The question is, how does he feel about her? You don't need to know any of the minutia. Why? Because you're not doing this by yourself. Spirit is holding your hand. So just answer the question. And let me tell you something, I'm never wrong. And I don't say that with ego. It's because I am guided by spirit because I let go. I worked in a shop. I read in a shop for several years. And they had heard about my work. And it's a local shop in town, but it's the biggest, most well-known metaphysical shop in the tri-state area. So they called and they asked me if I wanted to work on Saturday. I said, I have a job. They said, well, on Saturdays. I said, okay. I said, do you want to audition me? No, we've heard about your work. So I thought, well, okay. So I go first Saturday, I set up the room. And then I said, Erika, what happens if someone random just comes in off the street and asks you a question and you pull the cards? And what if you have to look at them and say, I don't know, beats the hell out of me. What do you see? And I started laughing because I realized that would never happen because my partner is always with me. And that's why I love to read so much, not just because I help my sitters with my readings, but because every time I pick up those cards to read for someone, I'm reminded of that golden connection, that golden cord that connects all of us to each other and to spirit. So my husband was a huge help by just saying, Erika, it's not childbirth. Even the tone came across and I thought, I've got to listen to that.
Wow, that is such an amazing story. Thank you so much for telling that. I think that will really help, people who are listening to this wondering, can I make a deal with people? Can we make promises across the veil to reach across?
Yes, I'll tell you what I've discovered. I've discovered that not only is the veil thin, but it is possible to have even better relationships with people once they've crossed over than here. There is healing that can be done on both sides of the divide and should be done on both sides of the divide. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because think about it, time and space, they're not really real anyway, right? They're not really real. So when we understand that, there should be no question about the fact that healing can take place on both sides.